What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Dr. Joey Munoz Show, your go-to podcast for all things health, fitness, and nutrition. I'm your host, Dr. Joey, Nutrition Sciences Ph.D. and founder of Fit for Life Academy. Today, I had the pleasure of having a wonderful friend on the podcast, James Cappola. If you guys don't follow James, he is a breath of fresh air when it comes to fitness content on social media. He's incredibly vulnerable. He shares his previous experiences with having an eating disorder, with having really bad body image issues. And in this podcast, we really went deep on some of those things. And he discussed some very helpful and actionable tips that help him improve, but some of the things that he works on with his clients as well. So if you're somebody who struggles with their relationship with food, if you have some struggles related to body image, I think this episode will be incredibly, incredibly insightful. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the episode. Hope you enjoy it. James, you're someone who's very open about your past struggles with your body image and relationship with food, which is honestly really rare for a man in the fitness industry to be so vulnerable about these things, and it's really refreshing as well. Do you mind sharing some actionable tips that helped you overcome these obstacles and get to where you are today?
Yeah. Don't wait as long as I did. Don't wait for the wake-up call. My wake-up call was me blackout drunk at a bachelor party, just a picture of me, just kind of just out of shape and depressed. And it never really clicked how much I was sacrificing my quality of life to live up to a certain standard and how much I was doing it for other people as opposed to myself. And I used to just think I was a party animal, but I didn't realize I was kind of numbing myself. So it all just kind of clicked that I had to start prioritizing myself. So you have to learn how to say no to things that are not conducive to your health anymore. You have to learn how to appreciate yourself and meet yourself where you're at. Otherwise, there's not going to be a body composition at which you will. And you have to take it day by day. And no more setting short-term goals. You're now going to hit milestones. For me, a milestone was being comfortable to show myself with my shirt off again at a heavier weight. Running with my shirt off, or feeling comfortable being in social situations without picking apart at my body. And just realizing that no one cares as much as you do. And anyone who does care or judges you, you don't want them in your life anyway. So realistically, it's about having your own back thrown through it. And there's going to be times where you're not happy with yourself and you have to validate those feelings, but also know that dwelling on them won't serve you. You have to keep showing up and getting things done. So if you have some form of consistency that you can stick to and feel accomplished, you now won't feel like you're drowning anymore. And when that happens on a consistent basis, 3 months go by, 6 months go by, and you're getting stronger and stronger, and you love yourself more and accept yourself more. And then from there, the hard work is pretty much done, and then you're just thriving.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really fantastic way to put it. I think some people understand that that is the goal, but it could be quite difficult to feel, or it could be quite difficult to feel like you can progress in that direction when you might feel like there's no hope, or it's really difficult to get out of where you're at, right? I think it might be helpful, James, if you share a little bit about your personal story and your background and the things that helped you come to these realizations and slowly make progress towards a healthier, more sustainable lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, my story is the typical obese kid who lost a bunch of weight and got jacked, and then that became my personality. But thankfully, I wasn't really a douche about it. I was never a bro. Like, I had bro moments, but I never talked down to anyone or thought I was better than anyone. I was always hard on myself because I lost the weight from a place of hate because I was bullied a lot. So when that happens, you're never exactly lean enough because that sticks with you. So once I saw what I was capable of and that I was actually good at this, I would have lunch with my physique coaches and pick their brains. I would train people for free, and I would start getting into disordered eating myself, especially after wrestling. And then I realized my abs were really coming through and my perceived value was going up. So I kind of carried this into my career in fitness, my degree in exercise science. I was either impressing people by my body or I was impressing people by being a party animal. Either way, I craved validation and attention. And it was very rare that I did things for me. So almost through the majority of my career, I put my mental health on the back burner without really realizing it. And there should have been a bunch of signs, like the fact that I was over $35,000 in debt just from impulsive spending and dopamine, trying to buy my happy and supplements and everything. And the fact that I would binge eat and binge drink every chance I got due to deprivation. And while I was always educated in this space and I always provided value, my service was diminishing due to the lack of care for myself. And even though I kept moving up in my career, I felt like I was still being held back by my perception of myself. So the message I want to just make clear is as much work as you're doing on your physical self, that inner work has to be just as important, if not more important, because you can waste a lot of years.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, man. As you're saying that, I can relate to a lot of what you're saying as well. It's funny because I've never thought about my previous behaviors as having disordered eating or an eating disorder or having a poor relationship with my physique or anything like that. But in many ways, I definitely did. I have a very similar background where I was very overweight as a kid. I wasn't necessarily bullied hardcore, but like my family always made fun of the fact that I was overweight and stuff. Like they would just make little jabs here and there. And those things always stuck with me. And then similarly, when I was in college, it was just about being super ripped and looking a certain way. And to be honest, like I love living that lifestyle, not necessarily so restrictive from the dietary aspect, but both you and I love training really hard. We
Yeah.
love building muscle, we love looking good. So part of it is that I really enjoyed it, but part of it was definitely to impress others and just feel like I had some value, right? Like amongst my friends, I am the most jacked. I look the best out of my buddies. We go out, it's always like measuring who could drink the most or who could talk to the most girls or
Yes.
it's like stupid things that do not matter,
Mhm.
right? And I've thought about this a ton because it's funny, I have friends from back in the day that stay in touch every once in a while and they're like, "I can't believe you're married and you have a kid and you, like, care about your career and stuff," because that's just not who I was when I was younger at all. I didn't even really care about school. I almost It's funny that I have a PhD because I almost failed out of college my first 2 years. And
Yeah.
so you as well? Yeah. And so for me, I thought about this sometimes. I'm like, "Man, what really changed?" And I don't necessarily know what exactly was the turning point, but I think over time, partially it's just becoming more mature, having other things in life that slowly matter more, right? Like I met my wife and I started to realize that like, chasing a bunch of women doesn't mean much. And this person I really care about, I rather spend more time with them and starting to focus a little bit more on my career. And slowly things changed in the right direction. Would you say that's something similar that you relate to that helped you get to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always did what my friend kind of wanted to do in the sense like, oh yeah, let's get numbers and stuff like that. But it was funny. Everyone like who I met, I quickly became like attached to. Like I wanted to know more. I wanted to eventually like go out like on a date. Like I've always had the girlfriend mentality as opposed to just like, just getting chicks. Um, and it's because I've always known that I did want more. I did want more than just quick thrills and things like that and quick dopamine. I wanted to have a reason to be more mature. I wanted to have a reason to be more the man I wanted to be. But until that day came, I kind of just rationalized and just thought, oh, I'm young. This is normal, you know?
Mhm.
But almost blacking out every time I drink, it took me a while to realize how not normal that was.
Yeah. And unfortunately, those behaviors are very normalized.
Yes.
Uh, Even not just in young people, even in like people in their 30s. I I talk to my wife about this frequently because she has some close friends, and anytime they want to hang out, it's just to go out and drink,
Yeah.
and they get super drunk. And like, hey, if you like getting drunk every once in a while, whatever, do whatever you want, right? But like, if that's the main way you socialize with your friends, like, it's probably important to realize that there's something maybe not right about that, right?
Yeah.
And for me, my friends, I mean, in college I drank a lot, but I've always had friends come over. Maybe we'll grill and hang out, or put on a movie, hang out, just talk, play some board games, something like that. And so many people are avoiding, and like hanging out is just synonymous with going to the bar and drinking. What helped you move away from those sorts of behaviors?
Well, I got into a pretty established routine that I was not budging from. And being hungover messed with that routine, or
Yeah.
being impulsive and binge eating messed with my consistency. So just obvious answer there to solve that problem. I have to slow down significantly. When the time comes, I'll have a few drinks, I'll enjoy myself, whatever. But for this to be a weekly thing, absolutely not.
Yeah, you seem to be
And
somebody who is very big on personal accountability. Is that correct?
yeah,
In the sense that we are responsible for our actions. We have agency over our own life, our own behaviors, and quite frankly, our future, right?
yeah. And it took me a while to get to the point where um, there is nothing that I eat that I regret. There is not one time that I drink that I regret. Everything I do, I'm mindful. I monitor it to think of how future me is going to deal with it,
Yeah.
and I can stand by my choices.
Yeah. I asked that question because so many people that do struggle tend to fall into the victim mentality,
Oh, of course.
right? How If you have a client that has that type of mentality to where it's like, I don't have control, I'm a victim of my situation, how do you talk to that kind of person?
Well, it's funny you say that because typically I have clients for over a year. I sell 3 or 6 month packages. A lot of the time, like the beginning packages that they get are just getting them out of their own way, right? Like you could be as consistent with my program all you want, but if you just keep going back to old habits that take up the majority of your time, you're fighting and losing. So there might be a part of you that's like, oh, when it's the weekend, I just want to let go. I don't want to, I don't want to track. I don't want to do this. I'm like, that's fine. But having 6 beers, a nacho grande mozzarella sticks, and then like pancakes when you get home, that's not just enjoying yourself. You're throwing your inhibitions to the wind. But there needs to be some accountability, and that's not being restrictive. It's showing restraint. And I just changed the perspective. I just say like, you're filling a void and you have to realize that. And you have to know, you have to stop associating going out with pigging out, or you have to stop associating um, having fun with letting your inhibitions go. Like there needs to be some agency. And little by little, they start to get it more. And then they wake up on, let's say, Sunday morning, not feeling like crap. And they're like, oh, I like this. Like I was fine with just having like 2 White Claws last night and like some tacos, right? Like you still enjoyed yourself. You still went out. And a lot of the times they need that assurance that they can still have what they want, but also give themselves what they need. And when they have enough proof of that and they're not facing a body out of desperation, now they have the patience to improve their quality of life and just see the improvements as time goes on.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And it does come down to accountability and continued conversations, man. It's difficult because some people don't have accountability in real life,
Mhm.
right? Because sometimes the people that are closest to them are the ones that are sabotaging them. And Alex Ramosi, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Alex Ramosi or
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
yeah. I heard a podcast of his, and he, very similar in terms of talking about discipline and hard work, but in the business space. And one thing that he mentioned in one of his episodes that I resonated so strongly with, he was like, the thing is, people confuse things like going out and partying and drinking with happiness, right? They say these things make me happy. And the truth is, they don't make you happy. They're just momentary relief. Like you mentioned, they're a dopamine hit. You feel good for a short period of time. But if we think about happiness, long term happiness, it honestly takes away from it, right? Um, it's funny, man, because when I first started coaching people, I felt like I was qualified because of my knowledge. I
Mhm.
was like, oh man, I have a PhD in nutrition and exercise science. I
Mhm.
have all this information that people can benefit from, and I'm really going to help people. And I have helped a ton of people, but I've slowly realized it has very little to do with the actual information because people don't need to know the intricacies of science, right? They need to have
Exactly.
a well-balanced diet and a good training plan. And like anybody can deliver that. And it really comes down to what you're talking about, the helping the client reframe the way they think about certain things, helping them stay accountable, guiding them in the right direction so they don't steer in the wrong direction. But it can be difficult sometimes, man. And the truth is that not everyone has success the first time around either, right? And I asked this question about the victim mentality because I've had experiences with a number of clients to where almost feels like they want to fail or they're scared to succeed, right? I'm thinking about one person in particular that I worked with, and man, it was just that every weekend, every weekend, friends would ask to hang out. They would go out. It's always to a bar, and they would always be drinking, and then they would go way overboard on food, and then they would feel really bad. And then Monday they felt bad about their actions, so they're back on it 100%, and they do really well all week, and it's just a repetitive cycle. And we've had conversations, and I said, "Hey, listen, your friends are not really your friends. I mean, they're your friends, right? But they're sabotaging you essentially. And you either need to have a conversation with them and tell them that you need their support. You need to be open and you need to be vulnerable. You need to express that going to a bar is probably not the best option. You can still hang out with your friends on the weekends, just maybe choose to do something differently. But no matter how many times we had that conversation, like nothing changed, man. It's difficult for some people.
Well, it's mainly black and white thinking because when that happens of having polar opposite behavior, living two separate lives, and then you overindulge, you go a little bit nuts, and it's like, all right, no alcohol, no sugar, no this, no that, and it's like, no, you don't have to do any of that. You don't just live, just live. Have your nutrients, exercise, sleep well, live. Want a few beers? Have a few beers, but
Yeah.
stop going nuts when you commit to not being healthy anymore. Like you can always be healthy. You can always be healthy and have carbs and have ice cream. That's that's contributing to your mental health. It's okay. Like it, I get like a lot of crap sometimes because I go on my live with like one of my like cigars. I have like 2 to 3 cigars a month. And I'm like, well, this makes me happy. If it's not ideal for my health, that's the choice that I'm making. But this contributes to my overall well-being. So I'm going to take it as a win. And if I abused it, if I had whiskey and cigars every day, that's one thing. So we are human beings. We have vices. We are not perfect. And the moment you realize you're not perfect, then that's when you can start thriving because you can take the huge amount of pressure off.
Yeah, it's so funny too, man, with, you and I both post content on social media. The people that comment on those things almost act as if they don't do anything
Oh
unhealthy.
yeah, they're the worst. They are such hypocrite.
Yeah.
No one that outspoken is perfect. No one.
No one is perfect, period. Even the people that aren't outspoken, right? Like we all have our vices. We all do things that are unhealthy because we enjoy it. It's perfectly fine, right? It's so funny. I remember this story. My professor from my PhD used to always say that he knew this other professor that would drink like over a bottle of wine every night. And she tried to like justify it for XYZ reasons because wine this, because wine that. And he told us, like, he just straight up told her, he was like, hey, listen, if you like having wine, just have it. Just say it's because you like it, but don't try to justify it for other reasons.
Like,
Such a good way to put it.
very true.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because both you and I see similarly on or have a similar view on this, that for us, health and fitness contributes to having a happy and healthy life.
Hmm.
And it's about balance with other aspects of our life, like our relationships with loved ones, our career, spending quality time doing things that we enjoy, right? It's a bit of a what came first, the chicken or the egg type of question. But oftentimes I see that people who overindulge, perhaps when it comes to food, or have very unhealthy behaviors, it seems to be due to I'm not going to generalize, say everybody, but a good amount of people, to general unhappiness when it comes to life, right? Unhappy with their career, unhappy
Sure.
with their relationships. Do you think it's almost necessary to improve some of these external factors before even trying to work on your health and fitness? Does one come before the other? Do both come simultaneously? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, most of the time, when it comes to binging, whether it's drinking or eating, I find that most of the time it is filling some sort of emotional void. And rather than just stopping, which will inevitably just happen again, especially if it's forbidden fruit, you have to find the root of that. You have to find where you feel like you're lacking worth. And from here, what action items can you start to implement to change that? Now, for some people, it is exercise. For other people, it might be reading or something, but you need to kind of step out of your comfort zone and experiment a little bit and not just assume everything is going to be okay just because someone gave you a list of instruction. That's why I hate anything cookie cutter. I hate people that are just like, just get a six pack, you won't be depressed, or just like follow this diet. And it's like, shut up.
Andy Elliott, I hate that guy.
Yeah. And just like, you're still going to be unhappy. You're still going to see the overweight person. You're not going to be fixed by outside perception. Sure. But that's very short lived. And if you get very excited when you hear it from people, you're going to crave it more and more. When you don't hear it, you're going to go further down the hole. So I find that when my clients finally feel like they're facing their limiting beliefs, whenever I onboard someone, I have them tell me 10 limiting beliefs, and I tell them not to bullshit me, because I can tell. And they really open up. And then we face it together, and then we talk about it. And then I give them a perspective from myself, who's most likely been in their shoes, and we're able to get to the bottom of it. And I'm not saying they're cured, but it clears a lot of the unnecessary bullshit out of the way.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. You know, for me, it's always been, like I said, if there's one thing I'm really thankful for is that both of my parents were into exercising. So
Oh, mine
I, we're not, yeah, I pretty much grew up in the gym. Like my mom would take me to the gym with her since I was a little kid. It's been
Exactly.
something that's always positively added to my life and has made me feel good. And I actually think fitness or the gym, quite frankly, for a lot of the success that I've had in life. I think some of my character traits of being hardworking, understanding that results will take time and effort, understanding that there are skills that you need to develop when it comes to business and relationships. I think a lot of those things personally, for me, stem from fitness because I didn't necessarily get those lessons from my parents directly. I've shared a little bit about my personal story on this podcast before and like had a pretty rough upbringing that had to teach myself a lot of things. And thankfully I've had fitness to thank for that. So for me, it's always been like, I attribute a lot of the happiness and success that I have in life due to fitness, right? And I try to tell people that sometimes fitness can almost be a gateway to improve other aspects of your life, because besides improving your body, you also start to learn some of these lessons, right? If you're dedicated to your training, well, then you're learning the importance of delayed gratification because you're not going to see an improvement in your body composition by next week, right? You learn the skill of feeling uncomfortable. You learn the skill of putting in work without really knowing what the result is going to be, right? These skills that carry over to other aspects of life. Now, what I see in some individuals who haven't had this experience is that they see exercise as punishment, right, for their unhealthy actions. And sometimes those unhealthy actions almost stem from, like you mentioned, some sort of emotional void or general unhappiness with the state of their life at the moment. And sometimes I almost think like some people need to try to improve the quality of their life and overall happiness to also be able to improve their fitness. I think obviously you can do both simultaneously, but it's funny the relationship there is between health and fitness and just other aspects of your life. It's not really one or the other.
So I envy the fact that you've always viewed fitness that way. I've been very open on my page about like 8 years of exercise bulimia and chewing and spitting and writing X's on food that I couldn't have. I was very resentful with myself, and my workouts I did like burpees in between sets. I was like burn, burn, burn fat, right? Like I worked out so intense, and then I just deprived myself, and then I had legendary binges once my parents fell asleep. And for a long time, it was punishment. I'd say I didn't start this healing journey in my 18-year career till like my 15th year.
So pretty recently.
Mm-hmm.
What during this journey? Sorry, you were gonna say something. Not to cut you off.
I'm
I'll interrupt.
I'm very thankful that I still had emotional intelligence with my clients. I knew what I was doing was not okay. I never put that on my clients. I still treated them the same as I do now. I think like the one toxic thing I said to a client in the past was like not to use coffee creamer. That was like the one like restrictive thing that I told someone, I think. Other than that, I've always had emotional intelligence when it came to dealing with my clients, thank God. But I just didn't apply it to myself.
That's interesting. That's interesting because, yeah, sometimes we can be really good at helping others while sabotaging ourselves.
Well,
But I'm happy to hear that you did have that emotional intelligence. I have a question for you. When you started this healing process, um, I know you mentioned like seeing some pictures of yourself in situations that you weren't proud of.
Mhm.
But was there something else that triggered you to realize that, like, hey, I really need to start working on these things? And as you started working on these things, what sort of role did like accountability and guidance play in your journey, right? Did you have people that cared about you, that helped keep you accountable, that helped steer you in the right direction when maybe you were going in the wrong direction?
I didn't really have any help from anyone, unfortunately. I mean, of course, my wife, right? But like friends and stuff, we didn't really talk about that. I am the only one in the fitness industry out of my friends. Um, and I got some judgment from them, like when I got up to like 250, and I didn't blame them. I really binge drank, I partied with drugs and stuff, and just I really was living two separate lives. So I just kind of lost who I was, and seeing that picture, I just knew that I'm not just a fitness manager at a commercial gym anymore. I'm a business owner, and I'm the face of that business besides my wife, of course. And I have to turn this around. And I have to turn it around for me, not for anyone else. So it just clicked.
Yeah, you have a lot of internal strength for sure, because I feel like a lot of people really struggle to do things on their own, right? Like, this is why one thing I really encourage with like our membership is community, right? And I tell clients like, hey, if you're experiencing some sort of joy or happiness or you have a small win, please share it.
Yeah.
Not
People do that.
not to brag, but because it really can inspire someone, right? And the opposite as well. Like, hey, if you are struggling with something, just post it in the community, right? You never know what somebody else could say that could help you feel better or think about things a little bit differently. And to me, it's been really encouraging to see an actual, I say, the Fit for Life family. Obviously, we're not an actual family, but seeing a little family come together with our community, right? And a member will share something like, "Hey, past week I just haven't had any motivation. I've been slacking. I don't know why I can't get to the gym and get my workouts in." And they'll just post that. And within a couple hours, 6, 7, 8 people just share something encouraging, or something relatable like, "Hey, I was feeling that way last month. These are some things that helped," or "Hey, it's okay. It's about consistency," etc. Just small little messages that really do help. And I feel like that can be such a cornerstone for so many people that perhaps have a really hard time doing things on their own because they're more socially motivated because they need a group of people. Um, It's interesting, man, because when I started coaching, doing one-on-one coaching, and the type of person that I work is definitely a little bit different than the type of person that you work with. But I think a lot of people that seek out coaching in the health and fitness space inherently have a certain degree of like a poor relationship with food or poor experience with fitness in the background, right? So although they may not have like a full-blown eating disorder or really bad body image issues, they do have some of these tendencies. And when I first started coaching, it was just one-on-one.
Mhm.
And then I started to even see in my personal life when it came to business, and again, in my mind, like I parallel everything to fitness.
Sure.
And I joined like a business community and I saw how encouraging it was to see other business owners who were in a similar spot to me sharing things. And I was like, man, I need to include this community thing with my coaching. And it's been incredibly beneficial. That's where that question of accountability came from in terms of
Right.
your own journey.
Yeah. I wish I had a community to. I really had to do this on my own. Um, but once well, no, wait, I take that back. As you know, I grew on social media pretty fast. So once I got the love and support for being me, not just posting, flexing or lifts and stuff, or finally being me and not being afraid to be me and knowing that I was heard and validated and the support from my followers, I was able to make more content that also resonated with them. And then I knew who I was talking to. And while I was helping them grow, I would grow. You could see, again, I do about 10 posts a day since like 2020. So you would have to go back a lot.
Yeah.
And you could see me growing in real time, wearing less outerwear, being more open, being more confident, um, changing the dynamic in how I post, knowing who I'm talking to. And when I started blowing up on Instagram, all of a sudden, just with 20, 40, 100,000, 200,000, I just knew that I didn't care what people thought anymore. I had my like community. I knew that there were people benefiting from my message. Even if one person were to feel inspired or improve their quality of life, that's a win. And I have a ton of haters, and it's okay. It changes nothing from my business or what I take away from this. It's fine. I give out a lot of shit, so of course I'm gonna have some back. And just the DMs that I get really, really reinforce that I'm on the right track. I get over like 500 a day of some people saying, fuck you, I hate you, but others saying, you're really changing my life. Thank you. I never thought of it this way and this and that. And that's really powerful. So I'd say while I didn't have any help per se, my following did help me grow.
Yeah, it's funny how the social media thing can really do that to you as well.
Me-
I just last week recorded or published a podcast with Bill Maeda. Do you know who Bill Maeda is?
Probably if I saw him.
Okay, he's this guy. He's like in his mid to late 50s. He lives in Hawaii. He's in fantastic shape. Super ripped, looks great. And we were talking on the podcast and he was telling me, he's like, man, like so many people, and by the way, he has amazing genetics. He's like, dude, I just eat whatever I want. I'm like, I just look like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's awesome. And he was like, you know, what's not awesome? That people see this and they want to look a certain way, but they don't understand what I've gone through. He's a cancer survivor. He's dealt with depression for years. And he was telling me that right when COVID hit, he's been a personal trainer, owned a small gym in Hawaii for God knows how many years.
Yes.
And during COVID, he thought his business was going to go under. And he was really depressed, was really struggling to feel any sort of motivation to do anything. And he was just working out. And one of his clients asked him to record some videos for him so he could work out at home, right? Because they didn't have a gym. The client was like, could you record some workouts for me so I could do it at home? And he was like, yeah, for sure. And then his daughter was like, Dad, you should post this on TikTok. And he was like, I don't even know what that is. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he then for a year just like posted his workouts every day on TikTok and YouTube. The man has like millions of followers now
That's awesome.
across all platforms. And he told me, he was like, you know, the one thing that got me through the depression, just seeing people say kind things, like
Yep.
seeing people say that I'm transforming their life, etc. And I'm like, it's cool because so many people just talk about how negative social media is, and there's some valid argument there, but
Of
there's so
course.
much positive as well, and people don't talk about the positive.
Well, what I think is messed up is how many people think that I have an ulterior motive because I'm kind, because I give out so much misinformation, because I give out so much
Good
real information and I don't gatekeep and stuff. I'm like, oh, you just want fat people to stay fat and this and that. And it's like, in what world would that be smart for my business model? Like, my first 2 pinned videos are me saying exactly what the services are that I give along with the rate. I hold nothing back. And
Yeah.
if someone can transform their lives just from my content alone, great. I don't care about missing out on money. This is hard. There's a ton of misinformation out there, and I wish they knew, hey, it doesn't have to be so scary.
Yeah. You know, something that just happened to me the other day that felt extremely rewarding. I tend to be a very naturally happy, motivated person majority of the time. And the only things that I really get down on myself about are when I'm putting a lot of effort towards something and it's not going in the direction that I expect it to go, right? And that happens, quite frankly, a lot with business, right? Like whether I'm producing content in a particular way and it's not doing the way that I wanted to, I tend to set very high expectations for myself unnecessarily, and then I feel bad about it if I don't hit those expectations. And I was feeling a little bit down on myself the other day because something I was doing didn't go the way that I wanted it to. And I went to the gym like I normally do, and I was kind of just like dragging my ass through my workout. And this kid, who I've never seen in my life before, just came up to me and he was like, "Hey man, are you Dr. Joey?" And he was like a little bit shy. He was like stuttering a little bit.
Hey.
And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, what's up?" I shook his hand and he says, "Dude, thank you for what you do. You've helped me lose 50 pounds.
That's awesome.
I was like, dude, first off, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And two, it was so cool that he like, just came up to me and said hi. I was like, please come up to me whenever you want, say hi. And like, I'm sure he felt like I've had a huge positive impact on his life, but he made my day, man. Like it made me feel so good. And that it's a win-win is what I'm trying to say when it comes to making content online. It's really nice when you get that sort of feedback.
Yeah. Someone recognized me in Aruba and like I dapped them up, I gave them a hug, I asked how they were doing and stuff, and it really did feel great. And when we're in this for the right reasons, and we know that we are, grifters know that they're grifters. That's why I always kind of smirk to myself when someone is clearly saying something that's bullshit. I'm like, they know that it's bullshit, right? Like, yes, people are that dumb, but like, kind of like no one's that dumb. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. So,
And some of them are actually quite smart. So that's why you know that they know they're grifters.
yeah, and they just know what sells. They have impressionable people who are lost, who need to be told what to do, who speak in absolutes, black and white, simple. You take this, this will happen. You do this, this will happen. If you do this, this won't happen. You know, for the people who say that certain foods are literally poison, it drives me nuts. But What was I going to say? As far as just people recognizing us and thanking us and stuff like that, that's how you know that the path that you're on is right. If you have a post or whatever that's kind of like a dud, it didn't go the way you thought, doesn't matter. This is like working on yourself and you're like a little bit like bloated or something. That's going to fluctuate. It just,
Yeah.
the pattern of behaviors that's causing your success, just keep going. I don't tie expectations to any posts. There are some that I do that I'm like, all right, this is going to blow up. There are some I just do because I want to do it. If I get 9 likes or something, okay. I have 8 more on the way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's not even so much around posts and stuff,
Yeah.
but it's like, it's very similar in other areas, like expectations when you launch something, it going a certain
Sure.
way or having a certain amount of success because you put in a ton of effort and you feel special, like, oh, I put in all this work, it should go this way. And the truth is, it's never like that, right?
Oh, yeah, no. I agree because I brought myself to a point, and this is what I wanted with my coaching. Like, I'm transport, I'm transparent about the rates and stuff like that because I usually had people. At first, before I was transparent about my rates, I averaged about 100 applications a week.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure that you know that a great chunk of that had massive sticker shock once they got to the sale. So I'm like, I can't just be doing consultation calls with people who have like not even the slightest idea of what
What
this
the service actually is.
because of course I want to help as many people as I can, but I'm also running a business. And the second I was transparent about that, I just got people who there's no talking them into it. They've already pretty much made up their mind because they feel like they know me from my content. So that part's really great. And I get to choose who I work with as opposed to just hoping that I get a sale or something. Now, I thought that when we opened up our membership, that it would kind of just be like that. I thought that people would go, oh, well, James has a membership. This must be great. Here. And I realized that it was that personal touch of the call, just like you said in the beginning, that got them to like commit to it. And without that, it's kind of hard to convey the value that they're getting.
Hey guys, some of you may not know that I'm the scientific advisor for a supplement company called Outwork Nutrition. I help with the formulation of new products to help ensure that they're effective and backed by science. Unlike many other supplement companies out there, we don't rely on exaggerated claims or flashy marketing tactics. Instead, we let the science speak for itself. We take pride in formulating products that deliver real results, helping you achieve your fitness goals in a meaningful way. If you're in the market for supplements like protein powder, pre-workout, or recovery products, make sure to check us out at outworknutrition.com. And as a thank you for being an avid listener of this podcast, use code Joey for an exclusive discount at checkout. You can find the link to our website down in the description of this podcast episode. Remember, our goal is to empower you with science-backed supplements that truly make a difference. Choose Outwork Nutrition and elevate your fitness to new heights. Yeah, that's something I felt down about as well. Like, that's exactly what I was thinking about. It's funny because it's the same exact thing when it comes to fitness, right? You have a client and they're like, oh man, I put all this effort in for a month and like not going the way that I wanted to. And as coaches, we're like, hey, it doesn't matter. What really matters is the behavior. And if you continually stay consistent with these behaviors, and the truth is that even if you are somewhat consistent with these behaviors at first, it's also a skill to develop these behaviors. So you're probably not executing them correctly at the beginning, right? And there's all these subjective things that like you're working on, but you're still not doing correctly. And the skill of doing it correctly increases over time, but you're not seeing that. It's not something you see visually, right? It's not like stepping on the scale and seeing a number. Or it's not like putting on 10 pounds on a certain lift at the gym. It's these small subjective things that I have to remind myself all the time when it comes to business that I do really well in the fitness space. And then sometimes I struggle a little bit from a mindset perspective in the business space.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, I am trying to read about marketing and sales and learning every day. That's what matters in educating myself. I work hard. I put in at least 8 to 9 hours of work every single day, even Saturdays. So like I'm putting in the work, I'm putting in the effort, I'm slowly learning. So I know that I'm moving in the right direction. But when you put all this effort and you have like something that you're launching and it kind of just like, but doesn't go the way that you want it to, it's hard not to take personal, right? But
Sure,
that's why
but
so many people go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
think about everything else that you accomplish in life that was a big deal. Like, it's very rare that it starts off right out of the gates, you know? And
You're right.
that's what you have to just take a deep breath and realize, like, out of everything that I've done in my life that I wanted to succeed in, I have everything. So this is no different. I'm going to scale to the point that I want to scale to. I just need to be patient. Like, I'm the constant in this sea of different
Correct.
variables that I want to take on. So it's inevitable. I even told her if for some reason Instagram went under, TikTok went under, we would find something because it's just who we're not just going to go, well, shucks, don't know what to do now. We would adapt and we'd be scared for a little, but that fire under our ass is why we're successful. So
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
I align with what you're saying strongly, and that's something that I've thought about too when I feel like I'm failing at something. I'm like, listen, time and time again, I've proven myself wrong. I and this is not to like brag either, but I do think it's a personality trait that like when
Yeah.
I'm set on something, I am gonna make it happen. I know I'm gonna make it happen. I don't know when, but I know I'm gonna make it happen, right? And not to quote Alex Ramosi again, but to quote him again, I was listening to one of his podcasts and he said, thing about people who win, it's winners win no matter what, right? And he was talking about people who like, and this again parallels the coaching space very well. Like people say, oh no, I tried this guy's coaching program and it didn't work, or I tried this guy's marketing method and it didn't work. It's like, no, the person who's gonna win is gonna make it work. It's not, does this thing work? It's I am gonna make this thing work and I'm gonna do what it takes to make it work. Why? Because it works for him. Why would it not work for me? Right? Like you have to be resilient. You have to keep finding ways to improve. Again, this is why I continue saying that all this stuff that you learn in fitness parallels to what you do in business. Not just business, relationships too. Everything that you're trying to have success in life, these principles really apply to. Um, so with the whole membership thing, both you and I are pretty new at this.
Yeah.
It's just going to take time, man. It's a skill that we need to learn.
Yeah. I, again, the biggest battle that I face is not overextending myself. Because I did that with in-person training. I worked about 100 hours a week, and I didn't care that I averaged about 3 hours of sleep a night. I didn't care that I was like miserable. So as far as the membership goes, outside of content, outside of my one-on-one, I do give a lot of time, but there's this overwhelming guilt that I'm just disappointing someone, that not having as much of me as they thought. But that's the internal battle that I'm dealing with.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's you want to make sure you give as much as you possibly can, but it's hard when there's limited time. It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I wanted to ask you, do you get bothered at all by the things people say on social media?
No.
And did you originally?
So I got really dysregulated yesterday. I never get mad on my own behalf because I know my worth. I know who I am. There's nothing anyone can say. If someone says I'm fat and out of shape, I'm like, okay, I'm not, but all right. Like it's like saying I have blue hair. I don't care, you know? And also I know enough about mental health that if someone is going out of their way to do that,
Yeah.
they're just as fucked up. But yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, someone said, why do you keep saying that you had to go into disordered eating to be like lean and jacked? It just sounds like you weren't educated enough. You know, like if you hired someone who knew what they were doing, you could have done it without disordered eating. And I'm like, oh, like what a slap in the face to people who had eating disorders and had severe body dysmorphia. And it's like, you don't think I know how to do this? Like, and we were talking about less than like 10% body fat. We're not just talking like a little like
Yeah.
lean. So for me, for my body, for me to do that, I had to go into disordered eating. And more so than that, I didn't want to live a life like that. So whether I could have done it like legit or not, I was going against my quality of life. Therefore, in my eyes,
Yeah.
it was disordered. And I was doing it for other people and not for myself. And I am 10 times more confident and happy with my body now, 40 pounds heavier. And I just got upset on everyone else's behalf who could read that and think like, oh, maybe I am just weak and like uneducated, you know? So that's what really got me angry yesterday. I messaged my wife saying, I'm really dysregulated. I'm really angry right now. I actually got so angry. I was doing chest press yesterday and like an idiot, I had 110s and I just threw them on my thighs and I'm like, ow. like I wasn't thinking at all.
Yeah.
And
Well, a person like that comments something like that, I almost feel like that person not trying to be an asshole, they just can't relate, right?
I know.
Because they haven't had an experience like yours at all, right?
Well,
And maybe they do sit a little bit leaner naturally, and for them it is easier to be a little bit leaner because the truth is genetics play a role, and sometimes people just have a way easier time being lean than other people, right?
oh yeah.
And so that probably just doesn't relate to your experience or the experience of others whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And if I took the time to breathe and regulate, I probably could have came to terms with that, but it was like an initial reaction. I was reacting. Because I have been fighting being fat my entire life. My whole family is big. Like whole family. And for how consistent I am, like realistically, I'm very, very real about myself. I used to be in denial in the past about like binge drinking and binge eating. For how consistent I am, if I had better genetics, I would be like jacked and shredded. But I'm very happy at my body composition at 5'9", 240. So it just, I wish people understood that it's not a matter of me being able to get that lean or not. I could if I truly wanted to again,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't change anything in my life
Yeah.
besides outside perception. That's
Such an important message, man. And I can relate to you so strongly on this too. It's like, I've been super lean, super visible
yeah.
six pack, ripped back when I was like 21. And I think about it sometimes like, yeah, that was cool.
Mhm.
Would it be cool to look like that? Yeah, it would be cool to look
Right,
like that,
right.
but not at the expense of what I actually need to do to look like that. Right. And so similarly, I thought about it sometimes, and sometimes I'm like, for me, sometimes I just get bored with like doing the same things over and over again. I'm like, hey, I'm going to take 3 or 4 months and get really lean. And then I think about it. I'm like, why? My
Yeah.
wife doesn't care. My wife does not care at all. I don't really care. Like, and I'm going to feel weaker in the gym. And I don't like that. I like being able to lift heavy weight. And I'm probably going to have to say no to some pizza and stuff like that. Like, I just don't want to do those things. I mean, the thing is, people don't think about those things when they set a particular goal to get leaner, man. I've had this conversation with so many clients, I'm sure you have as well, where they're already healthy. They're in good shape and they have a particular goal of getting leaner. And I'm the type of person that always encourages people to pursue whatever goal they want to pursue, given that they understand what sacrifices need to be made to
Sure.
get there. They're okay with those sacrifices. But
Usually when
people
people
don't
say
think that hard.
so like usually when people say like, I just want to lose these last like 10 pounds. And I'm like, I know where your head is at. And you can, but I'm letting you know that those last 10 pounds that you just want gone, this is going to be the difference between the life that you're living and being a lot more strict.
Yeah.
If you want that, be okay with that, right? Like I had a friend who messaged me and said he wanted to look like Zac Efron, right? And I'm like, you're not going to, and I mean that in the nicest way. Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you like partying a lot. That would have to
Yeah.
stop. Like You go to the gym maybe like twice per week. You would have to be there a lot. You would probably have to be put on gear. Like you would have to turn your life upside down.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to put it. You can look fantastic. I could give you a plan that you would look great. Not Zac Efron.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, you know what you mentioned about going to the gym twice and having to go more. One of the things that bothers me the most is how many people prey upon the fact that people don't want to work out.
Mhm.
And there are all of these like workout gurus or even like now like AI technology based machines that are way more efficient and you can get jacked with 20-minute workouts per week.
Oh my
It's
God,
like,
bro, I know.
dude, I did a webinar the other day and I always do an open Q&A at the end. And someone that attended the webinar asked me that question. They're like, hey, I'm doing this sort of exercise routine using these machines that are supposed to be way more efficient. So I'm not in the gym for an hour. I'm in the gym for 20 minutes and I do 2 workouts per week and it's supposed to be way more efficient. And she was like, I'm really struggling to improve my body composition then. And I was like, listen, if 2 times per week for 20 minutes was more efficient, Olympic athletes would not be training every day.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah, they would be training 2 times a week for 20 minutes. I was like, I would recommend you train at least 3 times per week for about an hour and do some full body at a bare minimum. If you really want to see improvement in body composition, right? Like training 2 times a week for 20 minutes is better than no exercise at all. We know that some movement is better than no movement, but it's not going to move the needle when it comes to improving body composition. And people just do not want to accept the fact that it takes hard work, man.
It
Like building muscle is
takes a
difficult.
lifestyle change and adaptation. The problem is people hear that and they think bodybuilding, right?
Yeah.
Like Tupperware, 60, 40, 20, like whatever. Like it's just like, no, that's, you're not going to be stage ready. You're not going to do that. You just want to be healthy. You want to be strong. Like just take care of yourself, walk, move. Like so many people are like, I work out like 4 days per week. Is that enough? And I'm like, what are you doing outside of the workouts? Like, what do you mean? Like running? I'm like, no, just movement. Like you're just working out to A, cross it off the list, and B, just be done with it so that you get to see the results as fast as possible. You are going to
Yeah.
drown. Just find the love of doing it for the sake of doing it. Then you won't be looking at the clock the entire time or your body or your scale. You'll just be like, oh, it's Monday. I get to work out this on Monday. And it's like, all right, well, I've been working for 6 hours. Time to go for a nice walk. Like, it's not digging ditches.
Yeah. It's hard to get people to that point though when
course.
when they're so far from it. Because I'm like that. Like you and I are very similar in many ways. Like my work break after working up a couple hours in the morning is to go into the gym and I look forward to it. It's fun. When I finish work, which will be after this podcast, me and my son go for a walk and we'll go for like a 30-minute walk. Like it's just nice, man. And like people see it as a chore. One of the funny things that I hear people say is when they say like, I don't have time to go for a walk. Like, dude, you hang out with your family, right? Like after work, do you hang out with your family? It's like, yeah. And that's one of the things. It's like, oh, I can't go for a walk because I have to either like, I have to take care of my son or something. It's like, just take your kids on a walk. Just spend some time together and do something physically active. Go to the park, go hang out. And I know sometimes people live in places where that's difficult because snow, etc. But like,
Sure.
man, you could always just do something active with your family and knock out 2 birds with one stone, right? It's fun. Like you have to enjoy it. You have to stop seeing these things as just punishment or things that you have to do. You have to want to do them. I crave going for a walk, right? Like that is some of the like time that I enjoy the most.
Right. And the last thing you're thinking is how many calories you're burning.
Yeah, not at all. I just want to go for a walk.
I know. They need to get out of the instant gratification mindset. Like, oh, well, how long do I have to do that for? I was like, for life. What? It's just like, I can't just sit down and just look out the window and see a beautiful day go by me. I can't. I'll go nuts. And the fact that other people don't have that. Just like, change the narrative as to why you're showing up, and then you'll always do it. But if it's punishment and a chore, you'll avoid it at all costs.
100%.
And
100%.
once I get my clients to that point, hard work is done. Then we just focus on form, efficiency, recipes, just have fun with it. But we got to get them to just see their quality of life and their health growing at the same time.
Yeah, dude. And it's really rewarding when you can help somebody get there. I recorded a podcast with one client in particular. I'll say his name because we did a podcast together. His name's Noah. And he used to be a high-level athlete. He was a lineman. He used to play football. And he just used to see food as a means to perform on the field.
Sure.
Right? Like, to him, that was the only purpose food had. Like, I need to eat because I need to be bigger because I need to play football. And then his football career came to an end. And he just, like, didn't see the importance of having a healthy diet at all.
Yeah.
And he gained a ton of weight. He was really unhealthy. He was way over 300 pounds when we first started working together. And what I really admire about him is how resilient he is, and he understands that shit takes work and he's willing to put in the work. And what he needs is like guidance and like a simple method to follow that actually worked, which is what we do, right? Like, we're not telling people follow this diet that's magical for fat loss because we know that shit doesn't work, right? We're just here to give people real recommendations. And for example, when we first started working together, he hated veggies, but he was open to trying them in different ways. So we talked about like, hey, your veggies don't have to be plain and boring. Like, grill them or saute them or put them in the oven. And like, hey, if adding some cheese to your broccoli helps you eat the damn broccoli, add some damn cheese to the broccoli, right?
Your Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, exactly. And so he started implementing these things and he was like, hey man, like, I'm actually looking forward to eating veggies. This is crazy. I'm like, yeah, it's great. And he was always somebody who was relatively sedentary outside of going to the gym because he liked lifting. And he had just moved to Italy.
Sweet.
And I was like, dude, you're going to be in a beautiful place. Like, enjoy it. And he started just going for hikes. And he was like, dude, I can't believe how much I enjoy going out. And he sent me some pictures a year before and after of when he visited the Colosseum in Rome. And he was like, dude, last year when I did this, I was out of breath, just like walking up and down the stairs. Now I could do it easily. And it's just like, yes, this is prime example of what's possible when you have accountability and you have guidance to move you in the right direction. You focus on the right things. You understand it takes work. You're cool with making small, sustainable progress, and you celebrate the wins. You're not just focused on the outcome of losing X amount of weight. It's really hard to get people to understand that message.
Well, what he said about like the Colosseum, I have my clients realize stuff like that all the time. They're like, it took me a while to realize that my back didn't hurt anymore, that I could bring the laundry bag up and down the stairs without problems. Like, little things like that, and realizing how capable you are now, as opposed to arm definition, ab definition, stuff like that, things that will happen in time. But like, when you notice things like that in real time, it's like, whoa, like what else is going well? And all I got to do is just keep this up, right?
Yeah.
Then it's intrinsic. Now it's not just rewards based anymore. We'll just take some.
Dude, to wrap this up, I want to ask you one more question.
Sure.
Because I feel like oftentimes people who struggle with body image, struggle with their relationship with food, they hear somebody like you talk, or they hear somebody like myself share our experience and say that we're in a much better place right now. And they're like, man, I want to get there. I can't wait till I'm at a point where I don't think about food the way that I do, or I don't feel negatively about my body. I'd love to get your take on this because I've shared my perspective on this before. Do you still have those thoughts every once in a while? Are those thoughts completely out of your head altogether?
Feeling bad about my body?
Yeah. Or even just like sometimes eating something like, ooh, a little bit of guilt around eating particular things.
No, I never have guilt. Never have guilt about food, and I've never binged in 3 years. So.
And what about discomfort with like your body or the way you look or anything like that?
But like, here's the thing though. It used to impact my self-worth.
Yes.
Now it's just like if you had spinach in your teeth, right? Like.
Yes.
Do you understand? Like, if my wife and I takes a picture and I'm like, that we could do better than that. And it's not me going like, oh God, my left arm looks bigger than my right arm.
Yeah.
My back isn't really defined. It's like, yeah, we can take a more flattering photo. It doesn't consume me. I'm not dwelling over it. And eventually I do get the photo. I'm like, oh man, I'm so proud of us. So
Yeah.
it impacts me that way.
Yeah.
But I think it's more of me just wanting to present a well polished
Sure.
version of myself. So it's
Yeah.
not so much a self worth thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with that fully. And what I was trying to really share is that, like, we all have these thoughts. I think they're normal, right?
Yeah.
Like, you look at yourself in the mirror like, "Ah, maybe I look a little bit bloated today," or "I look a little bit uncomfortable," but definitely doesn't impact my self-worth. But we all have these thoughts, like, we all care about the way we look, obviously,
Yeah.
right? When it comes to, maybe I'm a little bit different to you in the sense of, like, sometimes maybe I just, like, eat a little bit too much, and I have some digestive issues, and it'll impact my digestion really bad sometimes, and I'll be like, "Oh, man, like, I really shouldn't have eaten that much." So, like, we still have these thoughts. What's important is that, like, we don't react to them the same way, right? Like, it doesn't impact you the same way. And I do think it's something that's very achievable if you simply take some of these simple steps that we're talking about here and work towards improving overall health and quality of life. Anyways, man, we're rambling now, going in a circle. James, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better, my man. You and I have a very similar story, and we relate on so many things. So uh, I'm happy that you accepted my invite, and I'm happy that you're here today. Do you mind sharing with the audience where they can follow you on social media and learn more from you?
Sure. And thank you so much for having me. This really was a great and insightful discussion. I'll come back anytime. On Instagram, it's James_Cappola, Cappola. My website is zeroshortcutstraining.com, and TikTok is J_Cappola_fit coach.
Fantastic. And for those of you guys listening, don't worry, the links are down in the description, so make sure to check those out. And as always, if you listen this far, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you in next week's episode. All I ask is, if you're a regular listener and you enjoy this show, to just, what is it that I always say? Rate the podcast and leave a review, because it helps me a ton. Thank you guys, and I'll catch you next week.